Bernie always had a bad habit of repeating CIA talking points about foreign policy, right? He did it most recently with Venezuela and Syria. And so I would always critique him and to try to get him to stop doing that. He's stopped doing that. He is not doing that anymore. So that's good, right? And so in that same vein, I would like to try to get you to stop Russiagating so hard because it's counterproductive. Even and by the way, I have a little less disdain for you over Russiagate than other people because I firmly believe Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes do not believe Russia. They know that the facts. You don't believe in the hacking of the election like they do. You have a different Russiagate theory. So I really think that you believe it because unlike them, you had me on your network, right? Coming in and giving a counter narrative to the main show's Russia view. And then you had Aaron Matei on and you had Glenn Greenwald on. And so no one else did that.
No one.
And so that you have to give you props for that, and so I do.
So, in the cancel culture, they would say that I platformed you guys. Okay. And I also had Kyle Kalinske on about that, Michael Tracy.
Michael Tracy.
Right. So people will, even though I'm on the side of I think that Trump has a connection to Russia, we'll get into the details of that in a second. What do? I'm fair. I hear everybody out because I actually believe in being fair. I believe in having conversations because you know what? I might be wrong. Okay. And it's possible that if you have someone on who disagrees with you, one day, sometimes they're monsters and you show how wrong they are, like David Duke. Okay, we could talk about that too.
Right.
Or it's an honest, wonderful progressive that happens to disagree with you on an issue, and maybe they're right. What on God's green earth can go wrong if you exchange ideas? But they say, no. I want to stop all exchange of ideas. Okay, then who wins? Oh, I win. Like, whose idea is right then? Who do we declare the winner without having a conversation? Oh, we obviously declare me the winner. On what grounds? Like, if you don't allow Jimmy and Aaron and Glenn on your programs to talk about it and then declare yourself the winner, on what basis? Right? Whereas you've seen me, not only have I had people on, I've gone on other people's shows. I was just on with Matt Taibbi and Katie Halper. Yes. I've been on 100 shows. I'm happy to talk about it. You know why? Because the essence of what's the most important thing is, and you could actually blame me more in a sense for this, because I actually believe it. And I'll tell you what I believe in a second, because it's not what the mainstream media says, right? Whereas those folks are like, does it help the Democratic Party?
Right.
Okay, let's pretend Hillary lost the election not because she's an establishment candidate and not because she's a greasy politician, not because she's a conservative corporate Democrat, but because of 4 million Twitter impressions, which Jimmy got last afternoon, right? It's totally irrelevant because of the weather and Comey and the Russians, etc. I'm not in that camp. They don't want to have a conversation about it because they, honestly, in that case, they want to do propaganda on behalf of the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton. Now, guys, don't pick a progressive next time, because remember, the centrists would have won if it wasn't for those dastardly Russians and Comey and Weather and
WikiLeaks
and Cenk and Jimmy
sexism and blah, 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 and Susan Sarandon.
Yeah, mainly Susan Sarandon.
Mostly her.
Yeah, the climate change #, Susan Sarandon.
I think so. So I just want to. So here's my effort. So I predicted when people started to accuse Trump of being in a conspiracy with the Russians, I said, this is going to come back. This always does. This is always going to be. This is the establishment pushing this because it distracts from the real problems, which was the rigging of the 2016 primary, which nobody talks about ever. They always talk about the Russian threat, which didn't exist online and all that stuff that you agree that you don't really care about. And so for the last 3 years, the Democratic Party has been opposing Trump superficially, as far as I'm concerned, on Russiagate, right? That he's some kind of a Manchurian candidate. Now, I know that they don't believe that he is. And how can I prove that? Because since he's been president, they gave him $131 billion to do whatever he wants with bombs, right? And they're not ever going to make him never get congressional authorization. He can do whatever he wants. They've been doing it because they use the AUMF, right? So if they thought he was working for Putin and they would not give him $131 billion more dollars, right? So
this is why we have conversations, Jimmy, because
let me-
I never thought of that point.
okay.
Like, if you really believe that Trump is a Russian agent, why would you hand him $131 billion more in defense budget spending? We'd be like, wait a minute, we can't give him any defense budget spending because this guy's a Russian agent, right? And then the Mueller report comes out, and then they drop it immediately.
Immediately.
What the?
So, and then Cenk, and so the thing is, did you see the NDA? I'm sure, I don't know if you covered it or whatever, but did you see the NDAA, how the Democrats got rolled on that completely?
100%.
100%. So while they're opposing Trump because he's a traitor to our country in an impeachment hearing, behind the scenes, they're giving him everything they're not actually opposing him, Cenk. What was the point of us taking over the Congress if Nancy Pelosi isn't going to oppose Trump on the NDAA? They have the Congress. There was no compromise. Trump got everything he wanted. And here's another thing. So let me get this out there. So in the last 3 years, they've been doing Russiagate because they can't oppose Trump substantially, because that would mean that they would have to go against the establishment. And as you and I know, the Democratic Party is the establishment. So instead of opposing him on his judges, they fast track his judges. So instead of opposing him on the budget, they give him extra money to bomb people. So instead of opposing him on the border wall, they fund his border wall. It's crazy. So the Democrats just increased his spying powers. They re-upped the Patriot Act. Everything Trump wants, the Democrats are giving to him, right? So that's why they're doing this Russiagate. It's a ruse by the establishment to distract us because they can't actually oppose Donald Trump on substance. And when people push Russiagate, it takes away, you're doing the bidding of the establishment, and it's going to come back on us. And let me just show you these two quick. I said it would come back, and here they are. The first lady's calling Bernie Sanders Russian, and they're saying anybody who supports him is because they're mind tricked by Russia. And so the more we push the Russiagate, the more it undermines actual progressive causes.
Yeah. So I have 100 things to say about what you just said. First of all, that's why I'm a bigger threat to them than Trump, because they actually have the same donors as Trump.
Yes, I know.
Right. So they're like, oh, you have giant military industrial complex donors. Hey, what a wonderful coincidence. So do we. So let's all agree to give the Pentagon more than they asked for, because why? It's the corruption, stupid. So Trump hasn't hurt their business model at all.
At all.
In fact, Nancy Pelosi bragged when they asked her, why aren't you doing impeachment? One of the 3 reasons she gave originally was, we're raising a lot of money off of Trump. Wow. Look at how brazen that is, right? So whereas I am challenging their business model, I'm saying you guys are only in power because of the corporate money. If you didn't have the corporate money and we left it up to the voters and we had an even playing field, none of you would be in power. They're like, no, stop him, oppose, resistance against Cenk, resistance against progressives, right? So on the NDAA, what also frustrates me is the media. Almost every article called it a compromise bill. There was not one compromise there. Trump afterwards bragged. He said, quote, wow. And then he went, and he said, I can't believe I got everything I wanted.
Everything.
And he's right. So they say it's a compromise because they said for federal workers, we're going to let you do paid leave. That has nothing to do with the defense budget. And then Trump turned around and took credit, said, see, I got federal workers paid leave. So where's the compromise? Trump claims he's for it. So he got literally everything he wanted. There was not one shred of, but the media, look, one thing that Republican voters are right to be frustrated by is that the media seems to be completely controlled by the Democratic Party elite, right?
Yes.
Right. And
it's clear, right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Clear.
I mean, look, Jimmy, look at what they did to me, okay? LA Times and New York Times, I talked to their reporters. And I said, look, all these people are smearing me on the David Duke interview. I shredded them.
I know.
I yelled at him for an hour straight. I called him an anti-Semite. I called him a racist. I called him all these things. So if you're going to write about it, at least give it the context. And they're like, oh, yeah. The LA Times reporter's like, oh, I already watched the interview. The New York Times reporter's like, oh, I'm going to watch the interview. Give it proper context. And they both came out and like, he invited him on because David Duke is anti-Semitic. And what? No, but you see, that goes from like, hey, they have a bias, they have a certain perspective, they have a group thing too. No. That was malicious.
Yes.
And that was on purpose. They lied about me on purpose. And so the most curious thing about that, put aside like, hey, that's wrong, they're bad reporters, whatever. Why? Why is a reporter incentivized to smear a progressive on behalf of the Democratic Party? Aren't you supposed to be a watchdog? Aren't you supposed to hold the people in power accountable? No, they have completely changed the ethos and the culture of the media to support the powerful, the status quo, the politicians, and attack any outsider they consider to be a virus to the system. That guy's against corruption. Red alert, red alert. Go actively lie about him. CNN, their description of the David Duke interview was, Cenk invited him on to be an anti-Semite. Okay, but that turns the truth on its head. Then you, at a bare minimum, you suck at your job. At a bare minimum. Okay, but the reality is it's not negligence. They knew, they wrote the opposite of the truth to smear a progressive. So who gave them their marching orders? And yes, they'll say, oh, that's outrageous, a conspiracy theory that I care about, that Nancy Pelosi wrote a memo. I don't think Nancy Pelosi wrote a memo to an LA Times reporter. No, it filters down. The culture at the LA Times is politicians are legitimate and we must have access to them.
That's it.
They are the wonderful elite to be propped up. Any outsider on the right or the left is the boogeyman, and they're to be treated with disdain. And if you need to lie about them, just do it. They don't have any power. What difference does it make? Well, if we lose access to Cenk or Jimmy, who cares? Right? It doesn't affect our business model at all. Whereas in a macro sense, Nancy Pelosi affects our business model. I love that Pelosi and Feinstein endorsed my opponent. So Pelosi's the one that gave Trump everything on the defense bill. Feinstein voted for the Iraq War. You want to talk about disqualifying? In that comment about how he's disqualified, they said, oh, insensitive to minorities. How about the 1 million dead Iraqis? How insensitive was Dianne Feinstein and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton to the 1 million dead Iraqi citizens? Citizens that war caused the death of, that we started, okay, that we are responsible for. Killing 1 million Iraqis, not insensitive to minorities, not insensitive to anyone, okay? But, making a joke 20 years ago, very insensitive and unacceptable, right? So that's how biased these people are.
So would you try to stop Russiagating less?
So now let's get to it. So before I piss off your entire audience, Cenk2020.com. Remember, I'm against the establishment. Go donate, go volunteer. I'll see you in the district. We're volunteering every day. Now let me piss everybody off.
Okay.
Now, if I was a politician, I'd read the room, right? And I go, oh, okay, Jimmy's against it. And I'd come on here and be like, oh, no, you know what? I don't think so. I think Trump's totally innocent. And I don't believe that. Right. So what do I think is the real problem with Trump? Again, let's just real quick repeat, not the election, because if it was the election, why did Roger Stone have to go to WikiLeaks to find out what the Russians had if they were already working with the Russians? It doesn't make any sense. Okay.
So you disavowed the Russiagate, the establishment's version of Russiagate, that the collusion between Trump, WikiLeaks, and Russia hacked the thing. You don't believe that?
No way. Okay.
Okay.
So look,
okay. And the reason why I don't believe it is because there's zero evidence for it.
Yeah, and the things I don't know. Like, so
Right.
WikiLeaks and the Russians, I don't know anything about that. Okay. But did Trump know about the Russians? Obviously not. Why did he take the Trump Tower meeting if they were already working with the Russians?
That's right.
Why did he ask Roger Stone to go ask WikiLeaks if
Correct.
they already had the information?
Yes.
So that makes no logical sense.
Right.
Okay. And I wish that we had enough investigative reporters in this country that we could uncover more facts.
Right.
And as I did with Matt, and I'll tell everybody, I'll tell you what my speculation is based on logic, and I wish we had more facts to either prove it or disprove it. So why do I think Trump's connected to the Russians? Pre the election, the Russians buy like a third of one of the Trump towers. It's a very classic money laundering operation. You could say, hey, maybe Trump doesn't know. He's like, hey, they want to buy a third of my tower and they're washing their money out of Russia. What is it my business? Okay. I'm happy that they're getting me out of bankruptcy. But we know that the Russian oligarchs buy in Trump properties. They have the same money. They have their money in the same portion of Deutsche Bank, which is called the global laundromat, where they wash oligarch money out. Okay. And so Trump is in that same portion. Then the kids, Eric and Don Jr., especially Eric, they both admit that the Russians gave him the money. Eric says the Russians gave us all of our money to a golf writer. And the golf writer says, why? He says, oh, they really, really love golf. Okay. No one believes that. I mean, no one could be stupid enough to believe that the Russians gave all this money to the Trump family because they really love golf. So that's not the answer. Mark Sanford was not on the Appalachian Trail. The Russians don't give Trump money because they love golf. Okay. So they have an intense business relationship. Then Putin wakes up one day and Trump won. And he's like, oh my God, how the hell did we get this lucky? Yeah, they did the fake news stuff. They did try to influence the election. It was a small percentage, et cetera, but they didn't think he was going to win. And then he wins. And they're like, holy cow. Then my guess is, I'll tell you what this is now, there's the facts and then there's the speculation. He calls up his oligarch friends. They're like, doesn't he owe you guys a ton of money? And they're like, yeah.
This is the speculation part?
This is the speculation part. Yes. Okay. Does he owe them a lot of money? That's definite, according to his own family. Okay. The speculation part is that Putin calling up the oligarchs go, you guys got him, right? Oh, we got him. So then look at all the things he does afterwards. Now, this could get into an hour-long conversation, but again, the issue of the transcripts came up the other day. 5 different meetings with Putin, and there are no transcripts. Normally, you give it to the State Department. He says, no, I will not give it to the State Department. I will not give it to anybody. In one of the meetings, private meetings with Putin, he literally takes away the notes of the American translator. In another meeting, he says, I don't even want an American translator. I only want and trust the Russian translator. Okay. He says, taking Crimea makes sense. Russia should have Crimea. He says, our NATO allies are the problem.
Okay, so wait. So you say, so now you're basing this on the fact that he's indebted to the Russians.
Yes.
Because they gave him all his money because he goes bankrupt and he doesn't need money. And so they money launder through him. The oligarchs do.
Yes.
And that the oligarchs in Russia are all beholden to Putin.
100%. That's right.
Okay. So that's your theory.
Yes.
But you don't have any. Okay. So then you say, look at the evidence, and the evidence is that Trump has been acting in Putin's behalf, right? But
yeah, on 90% of the issues,
but
yes.
But on huge deals, he's not. First of all, he pulled out of the INF treaty. They did not want that to happen. He stopped that gas deal with Germany and Russia. That's the biggest deal. That has more to do with the Syrian war gas than anything. He bombed his client state. He bombed Syria. He wanted to overthrow Venezuela, which Putin was. So there's, Cenk, for everything that you can say that he's doing the bidding of Putin, you can say the exact opposite. And factually, right? It's not a theory that he stopped that gas thing. It's not a theory he pulled out of the INF. It's not a theory he bombed Syria or wanted to overthrow Venezuela. These are actual things that he did that are directly against Putin. So it's reckless, I think, to keep pushing what I would consider McCarthyism, because not because I care about Trump at all, right? You know that. But because, like I pointed out, it comes back, it creates this toxic environment, and at the same time, we're doing unwittingly the bidding of the establishment because they'd rather talk about Russia or Ukraine or anything except the fact that they just gave Trump everything he asked for.
Yeah, well, look, I agree that it's they use it as a distraction. But what's interesting, as usual, the Democrats is, but when it comes to actually investigating his finances, which could reveal, and it could prove me or you right or wrong, which I'm super happy to do. My God, all I want is the facts. So you list the things that Trump did against the Russians. I think I have a longer list of things that he did for the Russians. And by the way, that's a fair debate. That's why we have these conversations, and we don't unplatform people, et cetera. We talk it through, and it's good to have those conversations. Okay, what did the Democrats do instead? They say, well, I think he's working with the Russians, but I don't want to see his taxes. Wait, if you think he's working with the Russians, he's working with them because of his business dealings. Why wouldn't you want to see his tax returns? Now you're going to say, hey, wait, Cenk, I saw in the news that they do want his tax returns. No. New York State said you can have Trump's tax returns, but the only person who could ask for it is Richard Neal, the head of the House Ways and Means Committee. Okay? And Richard Neal said, I don't want them. Why? Why? If you think like I think that Trump is working with the Russians, I desperately want those taxes. I desperately want the Deutsche Bank records. And it's not just because I think Trump is working with the Russians. It's also because I care about the truth. If he isn't working with the Russians, I also want to know that, right? But Richard Neal said, no, I don't want his taxes. Then Trump sues. He had a window of about 2 to 3 weeks. Trump sues, and after that, it goes into the courts and litigation. Then Richard Neal says, oh, I want the taxes. Because he never wanted them. He wanted an excuse to be able to say, oh, it's tied up in the courts. I guess there's nothing we could do. We can't get his tax returns. Democratic 101 is, the slogan of the Democratic leadership should be, there's nothing we can do.
Yes, that's what they said over the NDAA verbatim. What do you want me to do? Hold my breath? That's what the guy in charge of negotiating said.
Yeah.
What? No, you have the majority in the House. Anyway.
Losers.
Yes. So there's a theory. Well, I know so people wonder why, if Nancy Pelosi is the same person in charge of impeaching people during Bush, why didn't she? He's obvious war criminal, ordered torture. We know for a fact that happened. Why didn't she impeach him? But she's going to impeach Trump over this, right? And she gives BS answers. She goes, well, we had just impeached Bill Clinton. I didn't want it to become a regular thing. What? You don't want it to be a regular thing that you should prosecute war criminals? That doesn't make any sense. So of course, Julian Assange revealed that Nancy Pelosi is complicit in torture because in 2002, the CIA told her they were torturing people. And so she has a responsibility to then make sure this is prosecuted. She did not, which makes her complicit in a war crime, which is why she did. That's the real reason she didn't impeach George Bush, because she would be exposed as complicit. And lots of people are saying, well, why don't they get Trump on the emollients clause? And why don't they because they would expose their criminality also, Jen.
In fact, that Richard Neal situation and so many others on this impeachment and the Russia story, et cetera, their actions have been so bizarre whenever it comes to his business dealings that at some point I just threw up my hands and said, no, there's something wrong here. I don't know it for a fact, but logic indicates that the Democrats don't want you to know about Trump's business dealings for some reason. And that reason, 9 out of 10 times, is because they also did it. I don't know what they did.
What it is, but yes.
Right, but they're covering something up on behalf of Donald Trump in a way that is inexplicable. And your analogy is perfect, because she was part of the group of 8 that they told about the torture. So then it's on her. But she bows her head and sanctions it.
Yes.
So if you then turn around and say Bush and Cheney are war criminals for torture, then the Republicans turn around and say, you okayed it, so I guess you're a war criminal. So Pelosi goes, not a war criminal, not a war criminal. No, totally fine. Everything's fine. Torturing people is great, against the law. The law doesn't matter. And then now Trump comes into place. They're like, can you believe he's violating the rule of law?
Right?
Yeah.
So you feel that way? Feel that way?
Of course.
Well, that's how I feel. Well, how can we feel the same way about this?
So for God's sake, get his business records so that
even
we can know for sure, okay?
So you know that they don't think so, because they wouldn't give him $131 billion to do war.
Of course. Whereas I wouldn't give
So
him the
you
money
wouldn't.
because I actually
Right.
believe he is working with the Russians because he owes them money.
Okay.
I genuinely believe it. Now, look, last thing on the torture stuff. What did Obama say? Obama said, "I don't
tortured some folks."
and Obama said, we don't look backwards, we look forwards.
Forward.
Which every criminal in the country had to celebrate. Like, they're like, oh, we're not looking backwards anymore. I got great news. All of my crimes are in the past. Okay, I haven't committed a single crime in the future yet.
Yet.
That's right. So they should have emptied all the jails if under Obama's thesis.
Yes.
So now, in a wonderful, ironic twist, those same corporate Democratic hacks in California that are attacking me say, can you believe this guy criticizes Obama? See, he's way too conservative and he's way too progressive.
Yeah.
Which one is it? Okay. So the reality is, yes, I do criticize Barack Obama from the left. Okay. And people deeply appreciate it because they only think in terms of identities and little check boxes. And they're like, aha, if you say anything against Obama, you'll alienate all African Americans. No, African Americans are, I mean, I have to explain the simplest thing to the Democratic Party. Guess what? They're human beings just like everybody else, and they can make up their own mind, and they can distinguish between a right-wing attack and a left-wing critique. They can distinguish between criticizing him for wearing a tan suit and putting mustard on his burger and saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't do a drone strike if you don't know who's underneath that bomb. And one guy once told a friend of mine, he said, this is a long story, I'm making it super short. He said, I like Cenk better than the MSNBC guys. He said he liked MSNBC, but he likes me better. This was a while back. And then he asked him why. He said, because Cenk pushes Obama to do our stuff rather than their stuff. That's it. It's that simple. But the hacks go, oh, he doesn't like Obama. It's over. It's over. Disqualified. Right? That's because they don't want to talk about the issues. They're desperate not to talk about the issues. Why? They're wrong on almost all of them. Why? Because they take the donor money, the same donor money that the Republicans take.
So you would agree then that the establishment uses Russia as a distraction?
Definitely when it came to the election, but I think they're past it now, Jimmy. I think I'm the only one left who actually is fighting to say that he actually is working with the Russians.
They just called Bernie Sanders as being, because it's if you catch on, Cenk, I just want to then I'll have to expose your Russian support.
But don't think they wouldn't do it.
Of course, Dad. Like I'm saying,
yeah,
that's why it's gonna. It already came back to hit Bernie, and it's from the top of the party. That's not asswipes and on blogs. That's the former nominee of the party saying that about the current frontrunner of the party. That's not. So that's where Russiagate leads. That's why I wish we would stop it.
Yeah, but you see my concern over it, and you like that I'm not in the same camp as Rachel Maddow, and you see why I'm concerned, right or wrong, and why I want to see the evidence. Because if he did get money from by the way, it's not just the Russians. I'm also not in the mainstream media camp on this. They're like the Russians and only the Russians. They're the boogeymen.
No,
but
Saudi
if you have
Arabia,
business deals,
Turkey.
If you have business dealings with Saudi Arabia, Israel, Turkey, nope, those don't count. Those don't count. What are you talking about? The guy, he has a licensing deal in Turkey.
Yes, and he just did that for Erdogan. Why would he do? Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I asked logically, do I know for a fact that Donald Trump is going to get a new licensing deal from people connected to Erdogan in Turkey? No, I do not know that for a fact. But I do know that he withdraws from northern Syria overnight. I want him to withdraw from Syria completely. By the way, he doesn't. He withdraws from northern Syria and puts the troops in the other parts of Syria. No withdrawal at all. Okay, but he does it on behalf of Turkey.
Yes.
And understand how licensing deals work. When you have a Trump Tower in Istanbul, Trump does not own it or run it. They pay him for his name. So when it's a licensing deal like that, you can pay him any amount you want and call it fair market value. So let's say you would have normally paid him $1 million, $2 million. You decide because Erdogan told you that his name is now more valuable and you're going to pay him $10 or $20 million. So that is the hardest thing in the world to prove and to catch him on. But I asked that question because logically, why the hell would he withdraw from northern Syria when he's not even withdrawing from Syria? After he gets a call from the Turkish president, and we know he's got a licensing deal in Turkey.
Yeah,
so be honest about Turkey, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries, their influence on us. Are you kidding me? We're talking about influence in the country, and we're not talking about Israel?
Israel?
Come on. Okay, so when you say that, they say, oh, you're anti-Israel. No, I'm not. And what am I, against the Russian people? I'm not against the Russian people. I want to know if Trump has some backroom deal, but I'm not against the Russian people. That's nuts. Am I against the Saudi people? No, I'm not against the Saudi people, but does that mean I have to be for the Saudi dictators? No, I don't have to be for the Saudi dictators. And do I have to be for the monstrous right-wing government of Israel in order to back Israel? No. I think what helps Israel and Palestine is a peace deal. And so whether it's the Russians trying to influence us, Israel, whether it's allies, it's enemies, it doesn't matter. They're not supposed to influence us. That's the laws. That's the rules. But they say, when it comes to Russia, I care a lot. When it comes to all the other countries, I don't care at all. So who's the hypocrites?
Yeah. Okay. So that's it's obvious, and for as Dylan Radigan points out, corruption didn't start in January 2017, right? Mm-hmm. If you believe that, it's easy to believe Trump is corrupt and all right, it's fine. And Dylan Radigan goes on and said, you also, if you believe that, you have to believe that Hillary Clinton took massive donations to her foundation to do weapons deals overseas, and that we don't have a functioning healthcare or financial system because Barack Obama was paid off by the banks. And it's hard to believe one and not the other two.
Isn't it weird how much, again, the corporate media backs the Democratic establishments without any hesitation in seeming biased or anything?
Yes.
So
because they are the establishment.
100%. So does anybody think that the Saudi government gave the Clinton Foundation money for charity?
For charity.
Really? I mean, really, any reporter, say it on the record, because I want to know who the stupid people are, okay? Because you should be run out of your job. If you're a journalist who thinks, oh, no, the Saudis, they love charity. Golly, gee, they want to help with healthcare across the world. That's why they gave. Now, they didn't happen to give to any other foundation working on that issue, but the Clinton Foundation, they happen to give a lot of money to influence the Clintons. How dare you? It sounds like you're besmirching their reputation. And we can go on and on every issue. How about Hunter Biden? So, look, they don't have the evidence that Joe Biden put Hunter Biden in there or pressured anybody. Yes, that is true. But does anyone think that Hunter Biden is an expert on Ukrainian gas?
So,
Come on, right? So, but if you mention that, red alert, everyone in the media will be like, conspiracy theory.
Yes.
To say that Hunter Biden doesn't know about Ukrainian gas. No, Hunter Biden's totally innocent. What are you talking about? No, the guy, like.
you feel the same way?
Of course, Hunter Biden went around the world going on boards of companies making $50,000 a month per board, right? Making all this money, and he was cashing off of his last name. Now, that doesn't mean that his dad told him to, or his dad sanctioned it, or that there was any deal. But did Hunter?
His dad did overthrow a government for him.
Which one?
Ukraine.
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay. Sorry, I'm making a joke. Go ahead.
That's okay. But did Hunter use his last name to rake in all that money? Of course. If his name was Hunter Jablowski, does anybody think he's on the board of that company? Not one actual human being believes that. And then secondly, why did they care about his name? Because they at least wanted to influence Joe Biden and the American government. And that's the most obvious thing in the world.
And that guy he was working for at Burisma is one of the I've read it many times that he was the most corrupt guy in Ukraine. Right, so that's why.
Yeah, the Burisma, that company, has huge corruption issues.
Right,
that's right.
And at Joe Biden, if he was competent, he would have directed his son, "Don't take that job because it's going to look horrible for me." In fact, they were warned about it, and they dismissed it.
So look, I think Joe Biden is 1,000,000% the wrong candidate. So I could say 1,000 things against Joe Biden, but that one's a tough one because he can't control his son. He's a grown-ass man.
Well, he can get him out of the military with a clean bill of sale, right?
Yeah, just like Trump's dad did,
yes.
just like Bush's dad did.
They're all corrupt.
And so they're all part of the elites, and they send us to war. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq war. Now, his son, Beau Biden, was in the military and was a wonderful guy. Now, look, but guys, Hunter has a million problems. I mean, like literally crack cocaine. He has a crack addiction, or I did, right? So I'm not saying that against him. I'm actually saying it as a progressive, like, have some sympathy for the guy, okay? Now, I don't have sympathy when he goes in on those boards and takes the money and corruption, but he's a troubled guy, no question about it. Now, if you're the dad, God, how do you deal with that? We got 1,000 things on Biden, right? He voted for the bankruptcy bill, crushed student debt, crushed students with all that debt. He voted for the Iraq war. He voted for the war on drugs. He pushed Reagan on the war on drugs. But his son is a screw up, and I don't know how, and he doesn't know how to deal with him. Like, if he could have stopped him from taking crack, my guess is he would have. He can't stop the kid. Yeah. And the kid's like, I say kid, but he was like 47, 49.
But didn't he take him on Air Force Two to China? And then Hunter Biden ended up doing a deal in China, right? Yeah. So that's not cool.
No, I hear you. It's not cool. I just have sympathy for him on those grounds.
Okay.
And you could criticize me for that, but I have sympathy. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I mean, I know. Your kids, I know. I mean, I come from a big family. There's all different types in my family.
Yeah, is there any screw-ups in your family?
There is no, hey, you're a damn liar. Listen, fat. All right,
which, by the way, is true.
Fat.
By the way, Jimmy, you're joking, and I don't know if you know that that's not allowed anymore.
No, you can't.
No, you're not allowed to joke.
No. So I wanted to ask you one more question. So if you lose the primary to this corporatist, will you endorse her?
Look,
tough question, huh?
No. Like, no, I don't endorse. I would never endorse a corporate Democrat, because that's like putting up your hand and saying, please, everybody, like, give her money, even though corporations already give her money.
Right.
So in that sense, she's chosen her path. Her path is a corporate path. She has a lot of corporate friends, including insurance companies, who paid her to kill Medicare for all. So have at it, Hoss. Go back to your corporate friends and raise money from them. I I would never ask someone, look, my average donation over the last 2 days, because people got mad and started giving to me because they were smearing me, is $23. Okay. So I'm going to ask somebody who's struggling to pay the rent, but loves fighting for progressives and believes in them, to give a hard-earned $23 to someone who's taken thousands of millions of dollars from corporations? Hell no, I'm not going to ask them to do that. Okay. So, her average donation in the beginning of this year, to be fair, it's before the campaign started, but she's an assemblywoman, so she's taking money already. Her average donation is $2,700. So I'm going to ask you to give up $5 that you desperately need for lunch money to give to her? No, her corporate friends are going to give her millions of dollars. At the same time, should you know me, you know my stance on this, and sometimes it drives you crazy. Yes. But should you vote for Christie over Steve Knight, who's going to vote with Trump 99% of the time? Yes, you should, because Steve Knight is worse. But luckily, that's why we have primaries. You don't have to worry about that dilemma if you make sure that we fight now. This is the most important fight. Fighting after you have the lesser of two evils sucks, right? So don't let them trick you into that situation. So I'm saying it with all earnestness. Look, cenk2020.com/go is to donate. And it makes all the difference, because now you know for a fact I got no one left. I got no political allies. I got no political groups backing me. I got nobody but you guys, okay? So cenk2020.com/go. And if you want to be part of my team, part of the volunteers who are out there busting their ass while she's doing Beverly Hills fundraisers, cenk2020.com/team. Come out there. I canvass with you. We do it all together, okay? I phone bank with you. So, by the way, we called... what was it, 4,000 or 40,000? No, 4,000 people just yesterday. And just people that are volunteers in the district. People who can volunteer all across the country, and we love that. And you could also phone bank. Yesterday, we started with just people in the district, and they already reached 4,000 people. Okay, people power works, but you got to believe in it. You can't believe the lie that there's nothing you could do and you should sit home on your couch and do nothing. No, stand up right now and fight back. This special election, because it stands on its own and is not part of the other 2020 elections, is a huge spotlight. Already the media is paying so much attention because of the smears, etc. If I win, it'll shock them to their core. Like, how could a real progressive not taking corporate PAC money win in a purple district? We told everybody that wasn't possible. And I will tell everyone, and then I'll have power. And what do? They bend to power, okay? And I'll tell all the reporters, didn't you say that you couldn't win in a purple district? Weren't you wrong? Weren't you wrong when you said progressives can't win? Weren't you wrong when you said you had to take corporate PAC money, okay? No, we did it without corporate PAC money. We did it in a purple district, and now there's nothing you could do to stop me. Imagine that dream, and it is eminently possible. Guys, I think despite all the attacks, I am the leading candidate in the race. The reporters sometimes will say at the end of our article, but the leading candidate is Christy Smith. Based on what? You've never done a single poll. But Nancy Pelosi backs her. Nancy Pelosi's not in the district. She doesn't vote. Okay. So nobody cares. In fact, that might do her more damage than good. Okay. And so why have you declared her the front runner? Right now, for all that we can see, I have more money. And I thought all you cared about was money. Yeah. You said the only metric was money. Okay. If I'm leaning on money, then why aren't you declaring me the front runner? Because you're biased and you hate progressives. So just own it. And then secondly, volunteers and individual contributions. I have 21,000 individual contributions. That is, my guess is when the numbers come out on January 15th, I will have more individual contributions than the rest of the 12 people in the race combined, probably times 10. Okay?
Wow.
So at least times 4. So if all these folks are giving to this one candidate, if I have literally 1,000 more volunteers than everyone else combined, how am I not the leading candidate?
So how are you doing rallies and stuff? You're up there, 100%. I know, all the time. So how are they? They're being well attended? How's it look?
Oh, it looks amazing. So they're like, I don't know if you can get people in this district to show up. We go to Palmdale, which is in the northern part of the district. First meetup we do, 60 people all from the district. Okay, Jimmy, you know what's happening when I'm knocking on doors? People are like, oh, you're that guy from the Young Turks.
Oh, really?
Oops, they know me already.
Oh,
okay.
Really?
So that's why this is an unstoppable force. Look, everyone...
That is a purple... I mean, it's very purple, in fact. I mean, I know people who live up there, right? My
Yeah.
old roommate lives up there.
Tell them to vote for Cenk.
Jackie Flynn lives up there, and there's it's all there. A lot of cops are up there, so there are a lot of people who are natural Republicans.
Yeah, so Jimmy, that's the other thing. They say, "Oh, you can't win in that district. There's a lot of cops, so you got to change your opinion on Black Lives Matter and cops." No deal. Okay, that's not how I roll. I'm not a slimy politician. I will not change a single opinion. Okay, do not shoot unarmed black men. Don't do it. If you say I want to shoot unarmed black men, okay, well then don't vote for me because I'm not your candidate. There are many candidates, including the other Democrat, who surround themselves with cops all the time.
Oh, really?
Well, you know, somebody did research online. She's never once mentioned the phrase Black Lives Matter. She's, as far as we can tell, never talked about racism. Okay. Oh, I got a lot of cops. Look at her assumption about cops, first of all. Okay. And then she's trying to appease those cops. So she says, if you're African American or if you're Latino, that's your problem, not my problem. I think the cops vote more than you do. They donate more than you do. Okay. That's not how I roll. Okay. We're going to give them what we got. And if we win, the second great thing about it is progressives win, but also someone honest can actually win. That'll shock the reporters. They're so cynical. They're like, oh, this guy won't even lie. Yeah, that's right. He won't even change his positions. That's right. I won't change my positions. So I think the Democratic voters and voters overall, they want someone honest. They want someone that's going to serve them and not the corporate donors. Let's find out. That's why we do this thing. It's called an election. So last thing, Jimmy, today in Santa Clarita, I'm doing an open door fundraiser. You don't have to give anything. You can just come and meet me, especially if you live in the district, okay? We do a suggested $27 donation. But you can give $1, you can give $0. If you want to give $100 or $1,000, I love you. Go for it. Okay. So you could find out the information about that. It's 5:00 today. This is cenk2020.com/meet, as in MEET. Come meet me. Okay. So cenk2020.com/meet. If you're anywhere else in the country, you want to give $27 for the People's Fundraiser anyway, I love you. Do that. But if you're near Santa Clarita, come out and meet me. At the same day, like I keep telling you, I'm not positive it's in Beverly Hills, but it looks like it's in Beverly Hills. She's doing a fundraiser outside of the district. It's a minimum of $100 to get in, but if you want to be at her table or take a picture with her or something, it's $2,500. I am foolishly giving away pictures for free.
You know, Barack Obama had one. There was $35,000 to take a picture with Barack Obama.
There's parts that I get frustrated with Obama. There's parts I like about Obama. I think he's a really smart guy, and but ain't no picture worth $35,000. Are you kidding me?
He just bought his house from the Celtics owner, right? You saw that?
Yes. I saw the aerial view of it at Martha's Vineyard. It looks gorgeous.
49 acres.
Yeah. No, look, I tell you, again, I'm honest on this. It's not like I want to be rich. I want to have a beautiful house like that. I don't have it because I turn down money at every opportunity to do the right thing. But would I like a house like that? Sure. Okay. But meanwhile, look, if you're going to have the house and you're going to go on yachts, okay, nothing wrong with that. You wrote the books and you made the money, etc. But then go put on your walking boots like you said you were going to do. And so when the teachers are on strike in West Virginia or LA or Kentucky or anywhere else, go join the picket line. How powerful would that be? How powerful that you get up off of Martha's Vineyard and you join teachers or nurses or truckers. Go to Ohio, go to the GM strike line. You don't want to do unions? I don't know why you wouldn't want to do unions. Do something else, right? Every once in a while he does a photo op and he'll go give meals for the homeless, etc.
Toys to kids.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's very, very safe. It's siloed. It's limited. Go do something bold. You have all the political capital in the world. And what is he saving it for? For his legacy. What is your legacy about? It's about you. No, you use your political capital for the people. And if you don't, then it was worthless.
Yeah. I remember when you were the only guy critiquing Barack Obama, right? And you took a lot of heat for it.
We lost a lot of subscribers. Mm-hmm. We took a lot of critique. I'm still taking critique. You know the first thing that I criticized him on? I said, don't drill in the Gulf. It's a bad idea.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that turn out?
Yeah, really. Wow. So, so it's good. So I like to try to pull, but we try to pull you left, get you off Russiagate, get you more progressive on foreign policy. We'll get you there, right? Like, just don't believe the CIA and the FBI. Whatever they say, it's the opposite is true, right?
You know that Washington Post did a great story about how the Pentagon's been lying for like now the entirety of the Afghan war.
18
right?
years straight, every administration.
So I give credit where credit is due. So great story by the Washington Post, great journalism there. Okay.
You know why it came out?
No, go ahead.
The Pentagon awarded a contract to to Microsoft instead of AWS for their cloud service. And it was like a $10 billion contract. And so he's so pissed off at Trump that he's print this article now.
So I
That's
don't know
my
that.
theory anyway.
That's your theory. That's an interesting theory. I don't know that. But I do know that after the article is over, in every paper, including the Washington Post, whenever the Pentagon says something, they'll still print it as absolute truth.
That's correct.
And they won't say, hey, by the way, the Pentagon has
been lying.
has an 18-year history of lying. No, sorry. They have a history of lying that goes back to their very creation. They lie all the time, but I'm not a reporter. I'm a stenographer, so I will take whatever they said and tell you to you like as if it's true, even though my own paper did a giant expose showing that they've been lying to you for all this time. So that corporate machine rolls on.
Okay, so
let's stick a stick in those clogs,
yeah,
or whatever the right analogy is. Cogs and the right word. Mm-hmm. Sorry, thank you. And let's bust up their corrupt game.
Well, I hope you can do it, honest. So again, we share the same policy goals, you and I. We have different voting strategies, different whatever on tactics on how to oppose Trump. But it would be awesome to see you talking about how Nancy Pelosi's corrupted and how campaign contributions are actual bribes. And of course, we would never see you on MSNBC saying that.
No,
but I'll have you on here.
Jimmy, if I say that on the Young Turks, you'll never see me on MSNBC, and that's what's happened, right?
Right.
If I say that on the floor of the House, they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. It'll be the most scandalous thing that ever happened in Washington in our lifetimes. And they will have to cover it. And when they cover it, yes, they will rise in their righteous fury against me. Like, how dare this scoundrel say something that every American agrees with, right? And they will all attack me and that, by the way, I'm telling you ahead of time, you can play this clip later. If I make it into the House and I point out the corruption and the bribery of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, all of the media will immediately attack me instead of saying, oh, wait, that is interesting. Why is ExxonMobil giving money to these politicians? Is it for charity, or maybe does he have a point that maybe they're trying to buy them off? And they will all attack me, but it will fail. I guarantee you right now, it will fail. And then one day they'll do a poll. How many people agree with Cenk that the corporate money is a bribe, and how many people agree with Nancy Pelosi that they're doing it for charity? Okay? And I'll win in an overwhelming landslide. I'll win by 90%. And then you know what will happen next? More grassroots money will pour in, and I will use it to help other progressives. And the more they attack us, the more I help other progressives defeat incumbents until they cry uncle. Okay? So, and they'll say, Cenk, you're not allowed to, challenge the incumbents. Those are your colleagues. No deal. No deal. I'm telling you right now, if you're a Democratic congressperson, you vote against Medicare for all, I'm going to put your name on a goddamn list, okay? And I will come for you. Whatever grassroots money I have, I will share with other progressives to make sure that you are defeated in your primaries until we get an entire Congress that is going to vote for Medicare for all. If you don't like it, go cry. I don't care. I work for the people. I don't work for you.
Okay, Cenk Uygur, progressive, running in a purple district, California 25. Go to cenk2020.com. Make your donation, go to a meet and greet, go see him, go knock on a door, make a phone call. Well, good luck, progressive.
Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And I'm sorry that you had to platform me.
I hate having to platform a Russiagator. I'll tell you that. Become a premium member and get hours of bonus material every week. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com/join. Also, come see our live shows. We do live shows all the time. We're going to be in Hawaii. Then we're going to Portland, Tempe, Sacramento, San Jose, Miami. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all of our live shows. See you soon.